Hi guys, welcome to our third episode of Hips Hidden in Plain Sight. Really excited today because we're going to be talking about abuse within the arts industry. It's going to be a juicy subject. I'm here with lovely Naomi from Pods, and we've got some special guests with us today. I'm so excited. Just to give you a little bit of a introduction on the episode. So Naomi and I were talking sort of last month about some programs that we'd watched, things that we'd been seeing and hearing from other people. And then I came across a report around a survey of 4,000 workers revealing that the creative industries were actually a hotspot for bullying and harassment. It found that, managers, whilst they were the main perpetrators of bullying and harassment, co-workers and colleagues were also offenders. And I think it was like almost 3/4 of musicians said that abuse largely came from their co-workers. And it just kind of got us thinking that, there's all these like Me Too campaigns. And I mean, obviously the last few weeks have been very triggering for a lot of women with the recent events that have happened in the news and stuff. So I think with this episode, we're really interested in kind of going a little bit deeper into, what's happening in our own communities. There's just a lot to talk about. We hear a lot of stories, so we're hoping to kind of explore some of these today. We'd really like you guys to just get involved. Obviously, we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, so if you want to get involved in the conversation, please hit us up. I'll show you comments and we'll try and discuss them as we go along. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guests. I'll start with myself. My name's Jenna Varndell. I'm actually a musician myself, so I came from the creative industry. I'm a singer-songwriter. I used to be a singer-songwriter, then COVID came along and made me sound like a swan, so I just squawk all the time now. I'm a bit mad as well. Like nowadays, I am kind of more working in community engagement, youth engagement, that kind of thing. I'm the director of That's All Media, which is a discovery platform for campaigns and campaigners. I do a whole bunch of stuff that no one ever really understands, so I will leave it at that. If you want to find more about me, please feel free to holler. And then I'm going to pass over to my beautiful Naomi, co-host, and she's from Pods. Hey, Naomi.
Hi, Jenna. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Oh, sorry, I was echoing there. For those who don't know, my name's Naomi Donald. I'm based in the Midlands, founder of Pods, Protect Our Daughter and Sons. And we educate young people under 25 about healthy relationships to really try and protect them from all forms of abuse, exploitation and criminality. I'm also Authentic Voice Coordinator for Safe Lives, a domestic abuse charity. Most of my work is around like young people and relationships. And why this topic was so important to me is because over the years we've seen so many artists, like grime artists, rap artists, etc. Convicted of crimes, and I don't feel like there's enough talk about it. And also like working with young people, like the experiences that they have, everybody wants to be either a music artist or a model, and it's what kind of situations are they putting themselves into, and I really want to explore the reasons why and have a look at some of the things that might contribute to the reasons why this might be happening. So thank you, and I think I'm going to hand over to the lovely Sarah, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, so my name's Sarah Maynard and I am the CEO of Listen, Uplift, Vent CIC. It's a community organisation and we empower, educate and elevate through self-love. We work with mainly women that have been through domestic abuse and also lack self-love and confidence by running a 4-week self-love program within the community. But on top of that, we also do a diversity and inclusion program within primary schools, training the staff, the pupils, year 5 and 6, and also working with the parents. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, then we've got the lovely, beautiful Ashley with us. Hey, Ash.
Hey, so yeah, my name's Ashley. I'm a writer and radio presenter from Birmingham, and I also work a lot with youth and young people across the arts, and also getting them into media training as well. So yeah, I do quite a lot of work with the National Theatre, Birmingham Rep, and other theatre companies and other arts organisations across the UK. And yeah, I'm now at the stage where I'm ready to try and help more young people get into the arts, but I'm also very mindful of some of the challenges I face coming up, and I don't want other young people to go through that as well. But also seeing things online through social media, especially over the past year, of people really coming forward with their stories about their experiences. Now I'm really questioning what's the best practice to help people avoid that, and also how to get them help when they do come forward. So yes, I'm really looking forward to today and what all the beautiful knowledge that will be released as well.
Oh, it's going to be a good episode, isn't it? It's going to be really good. And then last but definitely not least, looking very beautiful like a model on the backdrop of a brick wall. I'm loving it. We got Ronki. Hey girl, how you doing?
Hi everyone. So I'm really looking forward to today. I can't wait to listen to some discussions about the arts. I've been in the arts for 25 years plus, and I've been in different kind of genres as well, with like the music, with dance, with a bit of drama, and so that's me and myself personally, but also I've worked in the community as well, working with young people in all different kinds of areas, from probation to just normal community youth work, to working with disabled learning difficulties and people from deprived backgrounds and stuff. So I'm really about empowering young people full stop, but definitely the young people as and gaining tools about how to deal with certain situations, etc. So that's me.
Oh, amazing. It's so lovely that we all want to help, and I think it's a really, really important part. Like, I don't want to like put a downer on the situation, but one day we're all going to die, and it's like, what knowledge are we going to leave behind? I know that sounds really grim, but it's the truth, right? Like, when we're all not here anymore, life is so short. Like, what's the point of us being here? What are we going to leave behind? And you know, everything that we learn, we should be passing down to the next generation. And you know, I think in a 2021 world, like, these things should just not be happening. It's crazy. And I always say, you know, not to, you know, discredit any men out there or anything, but women have been the most oppressed people for the longest time, and now I think it's about time that we come together and like make changes. So I'm going to kick it off first of all. Like, what is it about the creative industries that, you know, it's just such a hotspot for inappropriate behaviour? Yeah, like what is it about the creative industries? You wouldn't find it in other settings, so why does it happen there? I don't know who wants to kick off, but
can I start? I think it's a lot to do with that that need to please. Everything that you do in the arts is exposing yourself and trying to say in a certain way, like me, pick me, choose me. So it's that kind of, it's getting that balance, because you want to expose yourself, but you want to have control of how much you want to be exposed. And when you're in an industry as well, like I said, that you're keen to please and stuff, if you're with the wrong people, they can use it as an advantage to manipulate you, control you, all sorts of stuff, humiliate you, lots of different things. So and can I just say, in dance as well, I think not always, but you are more desensitized when it comes to exposing your body, because you have to get changed a lot. You wear different costumes and makeup, put on different egos and stuff. So and you have close contact with other dancers. So say, for example, with a lift, you might have someone's hand on your bottom. Do you know what I mean? There might be quite an expressionate form of dance where you have to be really close and intimate with them. So I think that's where lines can get blurred with performance and, you know, the arts and personal boundaries and things like that.
I also think it's because of like it's been happening for years. Money talks and power talks, and when you've got certain people in certain positions and they want something, they know if they can just promise that person they just want that break, they just want to be able to make it forward, get that next movie, get that music deal, get whatever it is. And then you've got this person who's got the money and power, who's already in that position, saying, if you do this, I can make your life change, I can do this for you. Naivety, that person, that girl, vulnerable, they're gonna think, oh my gosh, this is happening for me. But in reality, that person's just using them to get what they want, with no real intention of actually moving that person forward. It's power, and the fact that they've got the money, the person, and the power, the person believes that that person is going to give them that break.
When you're desperate in it, you know, you've been your biggest dream ever, that's all you've ever wanted. Like I said, because some of these young celebrities, they're providing for their whole families and stuff.
Exactly.
So it's
that desperation of wanting and needing to get your family in a better place, and wanting to, be able to be that person to help your mom be better and do better in life. It puts that pressure on you, so it may put you under pressure to say, oh, should I just do it? And then you do it. But then 9 times out of 10 when they do it, there's nothing that comes of it. They've just literally been taken advantage of.
Yeah, I agree with both of you ladies, and I love what you said there, Ronki, about that being in that sector, the dance sector, and needing or wanting to please everybody, like like you're always performative. And I never really thought about it in that way. I was more thinking about it the way Sarah was thinking. Thinking around like the power and control, because I know that a lot of the experiences that I've been, exposed to in the media or through other people, it has been about an individual having that power and believing that because they've got that power, position or money, that they can really manipulate or coerce somebody else into doing whatever it is that they want.
They want them to do.
So really interesting point. Ashley, do you have anything to add on that point?
Yeah, because I think it exists in all different industries, like every single one of them. Like all my friends have said the same thing coming up, like they've experienced some level of abuse or some unwanted contact or harassment, and they didn't know how to address it. So that's just like standard across the board. But what I think when it comes to the arts, and when you add social media into it, like we're all seeing it now, where you have all these artists that are dropping into girls' DMs and they're promising sweet nothings, and they're like, yeah, you get this if you're with me, or they're just grooming them bit by bit by bit. And then eventually you realize that actually all they were after were kind of sexual favors, and they weren't actually going to promise them anything else other than that. So it's more subtle. And that's what's so scary, because it's hard to pinpoint that. And then also as well, what you're seeing is the boundaries are being blurred, because like, okay, they're just legal, so that's fine. You know what I mean? They're over the age of 16, so that's not really a problem. Not realizing that actually there's still certain moral codes that you probably shouldn't cross, but no one's admitting that. It's like it's acceptable because they're over age, but that's still something that needs to be addressed. So I do find it weird, very, very strange.
Very.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting one as well, because I think a lot of it has to do with the environment and the space. I think Ronki, coming from the same kind of background, when you work in an office, you have departments like HR departments, and you kind of know your rights more as well. And I think when you're in a performance space, like I suppose Ronki, for you, like when you're physically having to touch each other, it's you can see how the lines would be blurred. But even in the music industry, there's been many times where I've been on stage singing, and I go to the bar to get a drink, and then somebody will slap your bottom or whatever, and it's like, and they think it's okay to do that, and it's like, you don't have permission to touch me, like it's not acceptable. And if somebody did that in an office, I mean, to be honest, it probably still happened. If ever you guys watch like 80s films or whatever, like the sexism is rife in there, and it just makes you think how far we've come in the last few decades, but it's still not far enough sometimes. I do wonder whether the environment plays a part. And as you guys have all mentioned, when we look at young people, it scares the hell out of me, like how vulnerable they are and susceptible they are to grooming and all sorts of really awful behaviors, because there's no policing it, and that really, really worries me. Yeah, it's a deep one. Why do you think there's a culture of silence? So, I mean, we've probably all seen things that are inappropriate. I have heard some crazy stories. And what always strikes me is why don't people speak out? Like when I mentioned earlier about co-workers, people see it. I mean, we've all seen the Harvey Weinstein stuff, right? I'm sure you've all seen documentaries and people have been like, I saw it going on, but I couldn't say anything. I mean,
They didn't want to lose their job. Money, 9 times out of 10. They didn't want to lose their job.
I was going to say that, Jenny. Yeah, I feel like, look, when you say about the music industry, especially when there's like backing dancers or dancers that are meant to have a sexual, a sexy persona, that's where I think, because you are, you're an accessory to them, they think that they can use you like that. I think there's a lot of that going on, and they actually believe that if you are a girl in a video girl, then that means you've got access to other things with those girls apart from the video. So I think that can be definitely something that they think of. As in regards of what you said as well about having somewhere to go, you find a lot of these industries are very cliquey. And if you say the wrong word to the wrong people, or you've given yourself, a certain, you're blacklisted. There'll be certain people that won't associate with you because you're actually in a bit of a shallow industry to some extent, because people only want to know you if you know certain people that know you, if that makes sense. It's about who you know and who you're clicking with and who's the networks and who's got the, So if you mess with the wrong kind of people, that could be all those years of training dance and going to dance schools and drama schools and all the money that your mum spent taking you to all these different things. Do you know what I mean? It can not make you speak. And that's where I think a lot of the silence is as well. Because if they've got enough power, they can make you look like the guilty one. And nobody wants that.
Andrea, Sarah's mum has just written in the comments, or shameful of the exposure, and that's absolutely like what perspective I was thinking of in terms of like that shame and stigma, how do you tell somebody, you might tell one of your friends that something's happened, but that's as far as it will go, because who else are you going to tell? Are you to take this all the way? So if it's somebody that's famous, risk being put in the newspaper or magazines and all of that stuff,
Yeah, exactly. As well, like Ronky said, you worked so hard for your career for all them years. You say that it's your word against them. They're this person of power and of influence. No matter what, you're going to be the person that's going to end up never working again, not being able to move on with your career and be shamed, even as the female. And that is unfortunately the truth, and it's sad.
Yeah, and there's a similarity with that, isn't there, with that in the arts and how it goes on road, because that's how you get treated on the road as well. Do you know what I mean? If one of the man them inverted commas, trouble any of the females, and that female tries to speak out, she's at risk of getting slated or further victimization. So it definitely seems to all be relating a lot back to power. What do you both think, Ashley, Jenna?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think as well, it's not a case of people aren't speaking, because especially, for example, last year, there was like this, it's around like June, July times. And it just seemed like all these young women were like, we've had enough. I'm tired of staying silent. But actually, when they say they're staying silent, you'd see in the tweets, but I told this person in the organization, but either that person was in a position of power and they weren't going to take it any further, or maybe the organization didn't have a board, or they didn't have any HR channels. And even then, you know what I mean? Even if you do go down those channels, if they are interconnected with those who are at the top, are they going to believe them? Are they going to take it seriously? So it's how do you kind of, moderate that setting, and how do you really get the most out of when you actually do say something and someone taking you seriously, especially if you're a freelancer, you don't have that backing behind you. And it's something that I'm hearing more and more, and it's terrifying because I don't know where to where to pass them on to, because it's all right saying go to the police. And I know that's like the biggest cry from men that feel offended by this. Go to the police, do this, do that. But if you don't trust the police, makes it worse. Like we've just seen in the news, if the police are the ones that are doing these things, then what do you do? So I'm really, really concerned massively.
I think sometimes you don't, it's, especially with young people as well, they find it hard to know if they actually have been abused. They're like, was I abused? Was I not abused? When I walked past and they rubbed at me there, should I, and then probably when you do recognize that you have been, it's quite a long way away. Then you think, oh, shall I bring it up again now? And just like you said, it's like knowing when to say it, what should you say, is it actually abuse, am I overreacting, it's so many reasons why you don't know how or what to say when you do want to.
And it should never be seen as am I overreacting if you feel like you've been touched inappropriately. And it's just as simple as that. Like I've been out in a club and I'm walking and a man's felt the need to touch my ass, and I'm just like, they're hearing it, like, what are you, like, who gave you the right? It's so disrespectful, like, you don't even know me, but you felt the need to do that. What? Do you know what I mean? Because this is wrong.
You're so right. And you know what made me just think when you just said that, Sarah? I was thinking of, the gymnasts, the USA gymnasts team.
Yeah.
Do you remember? And they had that coach, their actual medical advisor.
Yes.
Apparently the girls were saying to each other, oh, I don't like it when we go. And they just normalized it. Like they knew that he was a perv. They knew that they felt uncomfortable. They spoke about it amongst themselves, but they took it. I think the girl spoke to another girl and the girl said, oh yeah, we know what it's like. We hate them too. And then that was it. It wasn't like shock, horror, that shouldn't be happening to you. So again, they didn't even think to complain about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Naomi, you'll probably back this up as well, but when you start working around communities, and it baffles my mind because I'm like always in problem solving mode. Like a lot of the stuff that I do is always operational and building infrastructures for things. That's the part that no one understands what I do, by the way. But when you're saying that, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm like, it's the infrastructure that we've created for these platforms that are just not right. Like there's not enough noise being made about the right channels to go to get the right information and empower people. And it's just something that I notice a lot just in communities, like how where infrastructural support is rocky, it just has so many problems, and all of a sudden you have 5 outcomes from one root cause of something, and it costs the NHS loads of money, it costs our services, we're paying for all this stuff just because things aren't set out right. But Naomi, you probably got, in terms of like the young people and stuff, just not really understanding what abuse is. That's why the work that you do is, so valuable, because you're helping to empower people, younger people, to know what to do. You know what I mean?
Well, what Ronki said there, it's normalized a lot of the time. A lot of behavior, some of the things and the language I hear, especially like in schools, I'm like, that is not okay. But to them, it's just so normal. I'm going to shamefully or shamelessly plug myself again here, because one of the projects that, I'm working on this year with Pods, we've partnered with Safe Lives on a project called Your Best Friend, which is all about educating young people on how they can help their friends who might come to them about, a toxic relationship or sexual assault that's happened. Because like we said earlier, sometimes the first person that you might talk to is your friend, or like Ronki just said, all those dancers were talking amongst themselves and kind of knowing something's not right, but it didn't go any further. So
Imagine.
We want to work, over the next 2 years, we're going to be creating like digital resources and help forms with young people, for young people. What do you do if your friend comes and tells you this? So, and we need to share the education that it's not normal, it's not okay.
And also, sorry to cut you, Naomi. Just in terms of, somebody mentioned something about, and I know this is like a big thing that I'm so passionate about, because I often find that there's really strong parallels between things like racism and domestic abuse and all these things. And it's just so interesting to me. And when we look at, we've spoken a lot, haven't we, with Naomi, in previous episodes around cultural competence. And I think, you know, we're going to move on to some of the music exposures and stuff a bit later. But it's really difficult. I mean, I'm from Handsworth, so I always feel like no one really cares about us here. Like it's so frustrating. You call the police and, you know, they just, I know they're overworked and they're under-resourced and underfunded, but it's so like exhausting sometimes. Like I'm the kind of person in my neighborhood where people call me, they won't call the police, they'll phone me at 4 a.m, or something's happened, and I'm like, it's relentless. And I just it's so frustrating when you can't, you know, contact the people that are there to help you. And I think you said something, Ronki, before about I think it was like you know, not feeling empowered and knowing who to talk to and normalizing it all. And I think that when we actually strip back what happened, so if we look at, let's just say there's a couple of dancers, their coach is inappropriately doing things, whatever that may be, when they go home and they tell their mom might have, like, you know, debt going on, domestic abuse going on. She's not in the right headspace to even deal with that. So, you know, when we think, oh, it should be a straightforward solution, we have to think of the intricacies that are preventing all these things from happening. So as a community, this is why these kind of platforms are so important, because I really, really, really passionately and strongly believe that communities have to do more. We can't leave it all to our governments. We can't leave it all to the police. They can only do so much, but we have the power to make the changes, and we've got to empower ourselves so that we can empower the next generations. But yeah, it's deep. I'll give you that much. It's deep.
And it's giving the young people the voice, isn't it, Jenna? You know, it's like knowing, because you find that a lot of grooming is them testing you. They're going to test something first, see if they get away with that, then they'll try something else, and then they can kind of gauge whether you're somebody that's going to expose them or not. So from the get-go, when you feel uncomfortable, and you hear those little talks when you go, oh, they're not going to abuse those kind of kids because those kids will be there telling everyone, you know what I mean? You hear little talks like that. They, you know, if they know they're in an environment, they're around people that will speak up the minute you put a finger on them, they're not going to do it. It's as simple as that, because all this is about sneaky behaviour, manipulating, coercing. You know what I mean? That's how they get to do this to you. So if you show from the minute...
I agree, but then I somewhat disagree, because... people, sometimes some of these perpetrators, they will groom you over a long period of time. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like me personally, like, you know, I class myself as strong. Like, I've always been quite feisty. I've always been a fighter. Like, you know, from the outside, people say, oh, don't mess with her. Like, you get me? Like, but then I still ended up, like, you know, getting coerced and abused. So I think, like, absolutely, you have there's different types in it, because there's the ones who will, you know, prey on the vulnerable and the weak, and then there's ones who are more calculated and will be in it for the long term, like 2 to 3 years of grooming someone and coercing them until they are able to get what they want.
I like what you said there, Naomi, because that was another thing that we was talking about. You find that a lot of people that are in abusive relationships are strong characters, and they end up abusing them more, because the strong characters will hold the shame and the guilt of knowing that they're strong characters and don't want to be perceived in that way, and then that's how they get away with things like that. So I totally agree with you there, Naomi. But I also think there's another way to cope with that, though, is always going in numbers. When you go into an audition, when you go, always bring someone with you, especially young people. They you know, if you're like 16, 17, 18, even 18, 19, take someone with you. Take your mom, take your auntie, always make sure that you never go anywhere, you know, without being with someone. Even if you have to go into the interview room and the friend has to wait outside, just to know that someone's there when you come out, to even know that they're a witness, to know what happened as soon as you came out, or that kind of safeguarding, I think, is important as well.
And I think that's still a part of I think it's still a part of infrastructure as well, because, you know, it's not just about policies and procedures, and it's also about your family infrastructure, you know, making sure that your family and friends are aware, you're empowered. And I mean, a few years ago now, myself and Ronki, we delivered some workshops. We did sort of like a loose women style event in school where it was actually just talking to boys around domestic abuse, which was quite interesting, because usually, I know we've all had these conversations over the last few weeks. Why is it always women that have to change the behaviour? But it was so interesting, wasn't it, Ronki? Like the conversations that we were having with these boys, it was like, you know, when they're talking about girls really, you know, in that derogatory way. And it's really interesting. And I remember saying to them, like, cool, if there was a girl in your school and she was loose and, you know, she had a bit of a reputation, like, what would you guys do? And they were all like, oh, I'd leave her in it. Like it's up to her what she does. And I was like, okay, interesting. But what if that was your like sister or you know, cousin or something? And they're like, nah, man. I was like, isn't that interesting, guys? Like, you know, when it's your people, it's your family, you do something, but you're not looking out for everyone. And it just made me think about what you said, Naomi, about how you get sort of, you know, manipulated, and it happens so much earlier on than what we think. Like the way, you know, boys and girls treat each other from like young, it's all part of the same cycle, and it's like we've got to start like addressing it really early. And sorry, last point, I know I'm talking a lot, but Ronki, you said something about you know, empowering yourself as well. I had this conversation with my daughter the other day because she was walking in town, and this guy just pulls up to her and is like, get in my car. And she was like, no. But he said it with such conviction that it was almost like an order. But because I have all these conversations, like she knew straight away what to do. And I was like just reinforcing, if anybody touches you, you're very within your rights to just scream. It doesn't matter if you think you're going to look crazy. You do whatever you got to do to make sure that somebody knows you're making me feel uncomfortable. And I think that's, you know, the advice that I would give if anyone's watching. Like, it doesn't matter how you might think it looks, just go and do whatever you got to do. Oh gosh, there's so much to discuss in this episode. We might have to do a part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. Can we move on to the music industry really quickly? Naomi, I'll let you take this one because you said that you've been following a few of these stories. Like,
oh yeah, so like for me, obviously, first case, Solo 45, the guy from BBK that sings Feed Them to the Lions. Do you know that song? Like, feed them to the lions. You know that song? See Ashley's face. So, did you know about it? So, did you know about it?
No, I don't know about the song, but I know who he is.
You know who he is? Ronki?
Same Sarah.
Okay. So, like, basically, like, he was a member of BBK, Big Boy Better Know, and he was found guilty on... I think in the end there were 30 charges between 4 women over 2 years, and the crimes were like rape, false imprisonment, waterboarding. Like he really tortured these females, and that's just the 4 that came forward, and these were 4 females that didn't even know each other. Like, you know, it's not like they were all friends or whatever. And when that story came out, first of all, when he was convicted, he was originally convicted to 24 years. However, it just went back to the Court of Appeal at the beginning of this year, and it's been increased to 30 years because they felt like that was too lenient for his crimes. Now, the reason why I brought this up is because, you know, that's just one of many artists that we know of who has been charged with some horrific crimes. However, the response from, you know, the wider community has been pretty silent. Or I've listened to certain podcasts who I'm not going to name, but Birmingham-based podcasts, males like talking on it, and the things that they were saying was so victim blaming. Like, you know, oh, the girl shouldn't have been at his house. They should know what they're going there for. Why didn't they have a safe word to take themselves out of the situation, etc., etc. And I'm like, I remember this happening a few years ago with another artist, DVS, who is also a grime rapper, and he was in a relationship with a young person, a young girl as well, for a long time, and how their relationship ended was she ended up running out of the house. I'm pretty sure she was half naked after getting beaten and abused by this man. And when she revealed her story, it was years and years of abuse. And again, what I've seen online from people, some people who, you know, I looked at as my friends, like, you know, they were laughing about it, or do you know what I mean? There wasn't enough anger about it, and there wasn't enough support for the women that have gone through it. So that's just two, you know, just two artists to mention. But obviously, you know, you've got R. Kelly. More recently, you had Dr. Belly, like, you know, that come out the other day, gone quiet. Octavian, again, come out, gone quiet. So, yeah, that I just think it just needs to be addressed.
The Dr. Belly one, like, I just feel like that annoyed me more because I feel like, okay, your sister Steph London, number one, she's a big artist. She was also obviously defending him. Yeah. Now, as a big artist that's still very much active within the scene, why is there been no backlash against the simple fact that clearly your brother is guilty of something? Yeah. Why are you defending it? Just like with Nicki Minaj, you know, but it's weird. Like, I know family, let's say family over everything, but come on, is there no levels?
It's hard though, because it's like when you hear that, now that illusion's been shattered, and it's also part of our culture. We have someone who's talented and we put them on this pedestal. You can do no wrong. And you have songs, and then, for example, take someone like R. Kelly. You haven't just got songs for, you know, certain moods that you may be in. You've got songs for your barbecues. You've got songs for when you graduate. You've got songs to link all these happy memories together. So the moment you then say, no, this guy is a predator, you're like, no, and you don't want to let go of that illusion. You just don't want to let go of it at all. So how do you start to break that away? And like you said, they're so manipulative in the way that they do things, and they place themselves at this, like I said, top pedestal, and you can't bring them down. And then, like I said, well, like you said as well, you've got women that are protecting them too. That makes it even harder. And then when you're in that kind of online echo chamber and that's all you're hearing is, well, they're innocent, they're fine. And you're not hearing the opposite opinion, or you don't want to, you don't care to. It's so much harder to break through when it's your own people who are not letting that pedestal fall down. It's horrible.
But look at the R. Kelly situation. The thing for me that shocks me the most about that with him is that so many people, still like, well, I don't care his music, I don't care his, and I'm like, all right, I get it. He's a great artist, yeah. Credit where it's due. But for me now, I can't listen to My Body's Calling, because now I know you were sitting there looking at some little teenage child, while you was making these songs. So how can I enjoy that? Like, but there's so many people out there still willing to protect me. Like, wow, they just don't. It baffles the life out of me.
But like, can I just like ask you a question? Because I've had this debate so many times with people, and if you look back in history, there's so much. Can I say fuckeries like on this? Yeah. Sorry, but it's
demonetize. Go on.
Like, okay, so where do you separate the artist, like the art, from the fuckeries? You know what I mean? Because it's like they're all doing it. Because if then you start looking at R. Kelly, does that mean as a producer we've got to then start, like, you know, not listening to any, like, I'm not saying that I agree to any of these things.
You know what, though, Jenny, you are so right, and that's the argument that everybody has brought to me that does still listen to it, like, they can separate the two. For me, the difference is that I don't know those stories. I didn't watch a documentary and see all the things and hear all the things that I heard about R. Kelly. So it makes it difficult for me within myself, especially hearing what his songs are about. Majority of them are very sexual. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not like it's a producer that's made a beat. He's made a song that's very sexual. What he's saying to me now, when I hear them songs, I'm thinking of him there with these young girls. Like, I personally just can't do it because of everything that goes along with what the R. Kelly situation.
And then as well, as an artist, like when you are creating, you're creating from a spiritual space. So that means that whatever is around you is inspiring you. So that means, like Sarah's just said, if you're talking about my body's calling you and all these different things, and my mind's telling me no, my body's telling me yes, you were in that mind space when you were making that song. So I can't separate the two. I'm sorry. They are literally like night and day. You cannot get rid of them. Then it can't be separated. No, I don't agree with it at all.
Yeah, I have to say the Neverland Michael Jackson story just ruined my childhood, because it's like what you're saying about associating these memories. It's like, oh man, like, oh, I mean, even that. I mean, so let's just go back to what somebody said before. Pardon me, I think you've all said something around like enablers. So, having kind of domestic abuse history myself, there was a lot of that going on. I know me and Naomi have spoken about this lots as well, but it really is about enablers and how do we empower them? Because, moms of perpetrators just can't get it into their heads that their kids can do something wrong. Same with siblings and stuff as well. And it's like, how do we get to them to say, like, you're actually part of the problem? You might not be doing the abusing, but you're adding to it.
I think that's what you were saying about the R. Kelly. It's like she was 14 when he was with her. Do you know what I mean? When we heard all that stuff, I was young at the same time, so I probably didn't see it as obvious then. But when I think of all the adults and all the other people that are around, he was like in his mid to late 20s. She was literally not even 16. She was literally about 14, wasn't she? And so that's a form of enabling. Do you know it? In the industry like that. Why is it that we don't, when we can see things so obviously, that it's just, is it because it's in that, like Naomi said, all that facade, no, sorry, like Ashley said, all the facade of the fame, and it's a bit of a different world anyway. Like DJs, for example, they're mainly in big groups where people might be drinking, and do you know what I mean? All their ambitions have gone down now. Everyone's wants that free, it's going, basically what I'm saying is sometimes it is the victims that might even be, what do you call it? Reciprocate, what's the word? Can't think of the word.
Like perpetuating.
Yeah, because they're young, they're impressionable, they're in awe, they could be doing that. Again, it's the abuser's responsibility to say, no, she's 14, da-da-da-da-da. But again, it's hard. They're the ones that are not going to complain or because they're initiating it, because they think they're big people themselves and they want to be with all the no. So, and then the abusers think they can get away with it because they have got away with it for the ones that are letting them abuse them, even if they don't think they are getting abused, they are. Am I talking sense?
Absolutely.
The kind of catch-22 that the whole system, the whole industry is in.
It's just
yeah. And it could be in relation to culturally as well. I think back to certain reggae songs and what's that song? Hey little girl. Tempted.
Sorry,
I got that vocal.
I ain't even on about nine.
You know what I'm about?
That's my way. I'm tempted. Yeah, nasty.
Yeah, and there's a few songs like that. And then, if we go further back in our culture, I don't think it was frowned upon in terms of older men marrying young women, like families or tribes would, it was seen as normal. So, culturally, it might be a thing where these things have just been passed down and there hasn't been enough conversations around it. Whereas I feel like now in 2021, we have no excuse. Those of us that are living here in the Western world, we have no excuse, because we know what is right and what is wrong, So it is about really, Like someone said earlier, I think it was Jenna saying earlier, you know, like we've got to make changes for the generation that's coming after us. We might not be able to change all of those that have gone before us. If we can, that's great. But if we can't, we've got to concentrate on making the changes for those that are coming after us. Oh, is everyone on mute?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm trying to, we've all unmuted ourselves at the same time. I'm trying to like keep the latency delays at bay. Oh, like I'm telling you, we're going to have like part 2, part 3, part 4, all the way up to part 10, because this is like some crazy, there's so much to discuss. I mean, I really wanted to kind of touch on the whole, in like studios, what happens, Ronki, like, you know, in terms of like studio spaces, like it's just so interesting. I remember, you know, somebody told me like back in the day, even just about a studio experience that they'd had, and they hadn't really realized that, you know, they were being coaxed into something. And I mean, and I'm only saying this just to give an example, because if anyone's watching, like, this is how it works. It's like, so she goes into the studio to record some vocals because, you know, obviously you gassed her up saying how lovely her voice is and blah, 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 blah. There's a whole bunch of men in one room. He, you know how some studios have like different rooms. He then gets her to go and do her vocals in the vocal booth, and then he's telling her like, oh, what would sound sexier is if you take like your pants off and do it, you know, without any knickers on and blah 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 blah. And because she's so vulnerable, because she's gone on her own, like you said, Ronki, she didn't go with her friends and stuff. She's like listening because she trusts him, because she thinks that he's a big boy producer, and you know, she's just kind of going with the flow and probably feeling very uncomfortable as well. And then, cut a long story short, I think, you know, stuff went down and, you know, essentially got raped in there kind of thing. And the people afterwards, they knew what was going down, and not one of them, even though they felt bad, not one of them intervened or said anything. And that story often sticks in my head because it makes me so angry, because, like, I mean, we've probably heard the stats before where as females, either ourselves or at least one of our friends has been attacked in some way, but you never hear it from the guys. The guys don't talk and say, you know, that they're the rapists or they're the sexual predators. And I just wonder, in terms of, it would be really great to actually to get some men on. If there's any men watching, I'd love to hear your perspectives on this. Like, what do the male conversations look like and sound like these days? How are you
Male
guys?
conversations that I've been seeing recently is, and in fairness, they're not wrong in the sense of, okay, then, so back in the day when I was in school, in like secondary school, year 7, whatever, 8, going, young girls at that age had older men coming to, like, they loved the fact that their boyfriend was coming to pick them up in the car, and like, you know, that was a thing then. It's like, these guys are like, well, hold on, you women are complaining about this, but back in the day when you had your big old 20-odd-year-old man coming to pick you up from school, was it not abuse then? Do you get what I'm saying? They're the kind of conversations that I've been kind of seeing on social media recently from men, and they are not wrong, because that is what the truth of what was happening.
Definitely.
But they are still abusers because they were the ones that were older to know better.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think it's also, like you said, it's challenging it on the ground level, or else it's never going to change at the top. Because like you said, that was normal when we was at school for girls to have guys that they were dating that were in their 20s, and we were 14, 15. No one ever questioned it then. In fact, actually, now I think about it, a lot of the older women that we had in our lives actually encouraged it. Oh, that's fine. We were doing that when we, you know, you were your age, and that was perfectly cool. But actually, if no one's challenging that from the ground up, then when you really are taking down the big guns, then it's not going to seem like it's even possible, because this is normality for us. So I think it's how you kind of bring that into maybe an artistic space and explore that. So there was a girl who's from, a woman, a powerful woman from Birmingham called Amara Spence. And she did a play called Concubine based on this exact topic. And it was about a 16-year-old girl who's been through kind of a background where she's not safe at home, and then found solace in a producer. And from there, the exploitation started, and she was passed around, and you just saw it bit by bit, how it starts to break down this person's self-esteem, their ability to speak out, also their artistry. Everything just started to break down bit by bit. So I think it's how do you explore that in a way where people can understand it without feeling like they're being attacked at the same time.
I agree. I definitely agree.
It's a really interesting one, and I remember even my domestic abuse started very early on, and I was at school I was like 14, 15. He was like 20, had a car and everything. And he used to drop me to school. And one thing, now that I've learned all the things that I've learned with the work that I do, one thing that really sticks in my head is what some of the teachers said at the time. Rather than question and bring up safeguarding issues, which I'm hoping that they would do now, they actually encouraged it. They said, oh, I'd stick with him. He's got a nice car, 100%. And yeah, like, and I really do think to myself now, like, wow, like the adults around me failed me so bad, like, and it really, and to be honest, it's a good thing because it makes me so passionate about the things that I do now, but it really sticks in my head, like, as adults, you know, let's police ourselves all the time and just be aware of what we're saying to, like, you know, our younger people, because, you know, some of the stuff is just crazy.
I think you're right, Jenna. I think like there's a lot of big kids, big children, and big men, and with what I can't believe I'm not even saying it right now, am I? What do they say? Little boys in big man bodies, or little girls in big women bodies. So they come across. Yeah, they come across as these people that you should be able to respect and trust and all the rest of it, but they're half as immature as the young girls that they're, you know, doing things with. So you're definitely right. That's another form of enabling as well. I
just wanted to what Jenna asked around, you know, like the conversations that we're having with our men and boys like these days. And I just want to just take a moment to just big up all of the men and boys that I have been speaking to recently that, number one, are ready to accept accountability, you know, for their own actions. So on Clubhouse, I was in a powerful conversation the other day with the North London crew. Been doing a lot of work down London lately, but I think I'm going to save that for another podcast. You know, like the guys in that room were talking about, you know, them looking at their own behavior, not understanding that, you know, little things like the way that they would approach a female, things, the way that they would speak to a female, the way they would block in a female, like, you know, like they never seen anything wrong with that. But now that they're older, they're looking back thinking, wow, actually, that was like, you know, predatory behavior. Like, you know what I mean? And we spoke about the importance of, like, you know, them and others, because it takes a village, you know, like talking to their own children, their own sons, and showing their sons that actually it's not right. You know, we need to stop saying to our boys, like, you know, it's a good thing when they lose their virginity, and encourage them to go and lose their virginity, because, you know, it's often celebrated with males. So yeah, I just want to take a minute to just like really show some respect and big up all of the men and boys that I've been speaking to lately that have got our backs as well. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. For the fight, you know what I mean? So
yeah, Naomi, there's boys out there that it's happening to as well. That's what people are forgetting, the boys that are getting abused and everything like that.
We have to do a whole show on that. Because I think the boys always get missed out the conversation, and that's why my organisation is called Protect Our Daughters and Sons, and I actually do a lot more work with the boys than I do the girls, because they never get the chance, like you say, to really like speak about what's happening for them.
And they're less likely to speak up as well. So it's really important that we do give them a platform and we do validate what they say as well, because I do hear a lot of men saying that their voices are not necessarily heard. It's very knocked down with grow up, man up, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important because
lately, like, I've had a couple of friends that I've been speaking to that I've been feeling low, and for the men, even I was on the radio last week and a guy had asked the question to say, why is it always women that have these support groups? There's nothing for men. We're not able to express how we feel. We go through domestic abuse too. And it is true. And I've been thinking about it a lot myself recently, in the sense of, especially within the Black community, for young Black boys growing up, and depending on what kind of love they've been given and what kind of upbringing they've had, it's hard for them then to go out in the world and show love to females, never mind other people. Do you know what I mean? So how do they learn it? Where is it coming from? Where's the influence? And if they don't know, it's the blind leading the blind. And it can be the same for females as well, in the sense of growing up in a home where parents are not together, so you don't even know what it means to be with somebody. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's not always a male and female dynamic. It's actually, you hear a lot of same-sex couples that's more rife in abuse than heterosexual couples. So, you know, it is about the person understanding behaviours.
Men being able to express themselves in the sense
Yeah.
of they haven't been given the tools growing up that they require to be able to be the men that they need to be. And that's a massive issue within the community, massive, because men are now older, frustrated, unable to talk, and just, you know, and that's why there's a lot of male suicide.
Yes, yeah.
And that
there
again,
are a few
that's
organisations that I think there are a few.
Another conversation. Sorry, I think I'm getting some
Oh, no,
feedback.
sorry.
We've literally only got like 5 minutes left, so I just want us to start winding down. I want to just say, like, you know, to anybody who may be watching this, who may have been triggered, or if you know anybody that may be experiencing abuse or toxic relationships, there is help and support out there. And I think Jenna's going to share some of it on the screen. We spoke earlier about the Ask for Annie campaign scheme, where you can go into pharmacies and basically ask for Annie, which will alert staff to say that you need some help and support. They'll take you to a private room where you can either go on to phone the domestic abuse helpline, Respect, which is one of the male-led helplines, or the police if it is, like, you know, a 999 emergency. And I would urge anyone that is in a situation where they feel like their life is at risk, or they're at risk of serious harm, please pick up the phone and call the police. You know, even I know sometimes, you know, it's hard for people like us coming from our communities, but do not spare your life, you know, for your pride. Like, you know, like, if you feel it's that bad, you need to call the police. Call them. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And Sarah, I don't think you introduced the spoke that you're doing for women. I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about the program support that you're doing for women.
We've currently got a 4-week Love Yourself program that referrals are open for. It's a free program. It's for women only at the moment. Week 1 is based on self-love and mindset. Week number 2 is done by a beautiful lady called Christina Luke, and is based on inner child and healing. Week 3 is done by a lovely lady called Meeks Physiques, and it's a fitness and mental health session. And then the 4th week is healthy eating and mindset, done by the beautiful Sam from Caribbean Palms. So yeah, if anybody is interested, please look for Listen Uplift Fen on Facebook, Google, Instagram, wherever you'll find us, and contact us, because referrals are currently open at the moment for start dates in April. So thank you for letting me talk about that, Naomi, and thank you for having me on.
No problem. Excellent. Ronki, Ashley, do you have any health services or any advice that you'd like to share before we close the show?
Ronki, go for it. Go for it.
Sure. And just quickly, because I'm just starting up a charity, lupus charity. It's called Wolfpack Lupus UK Trust, and it's basically bringing awareness for people that suffer from lupus, but also we're going to touch on different invisible illnesses that are mainly prone for ethnic minorities. So just keep your eye out for that, and hopefully support different events, because we are looking to bring in the arts to hopefully bring awareness and stuff like that. So yeah, that'd be really great if you keep an eye out and support when you see it.
Where can people find you, Ronki?
You know what? I'm really terrible. I haven't got much of a social media presence, which I'm always getting bullied and told off to work on. So that's why I'm saying look out, because I'm going to try my best to get some stuff. I do a lot, but I'm more in the present. I'm more in the moment, so I forget to do all the documentations and stuff like that, so people can see what I'm doing. But hopefully I'm going to start doing that a lot more. But yeah. But I'll give it to Jen. I'll give her my information and have a look if you want.
Okay, brilliant. Ashley?
Thanks, Naomi, for having me.
No problem.
Yes, at the moment I'm working for a charity called Rising Girl, and it's basically a bunch of us who go into schools and will teach young teenagers about child sexual exploitation, forced marriage, like all those sort of stuff that affect young women and also families as well. So if you work at a school and you feel like actually your program would work here, just let us know. We can get in touch and we can book in. It's all free. So literally all you have to do is just say, you know, we need help, and we will come out and like do the program for you. And then also as well, if you are a young girl listening and you're like, oh, maybe I just want to also talk to women and also just be in a space of safety, I'm working with a company called Girl Grind, and they've literally just started up to help young Black and Asian women just feel safe in the arts, feel safe in business. And we're doing a Rounders Day in the summer. So if you want to come and just network with some young people and just have some fun and just bat some balls around and also just have a space to talk, do get in touch with me as well, and we can get you on for it.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure I got a DM from Girl Grind as well today. I haven't read it yet, but I did see the name come up. Yeah, wow, amazing small world.
Oh, Ashley, I love Rounders. Can I come?
I was going to say that. I love Rounders.
I love Rounders. Like, it's such a bad boy game. And then yeah, I'm down. I'm so down for Rounders. And then just from like some programs and projects that we're doing at the moment. So we've got Heal Hub, which is a mental health intervention. Over the last year, especially over COVID, we've been paying for over 100 young people to have therapy sessions. We've got something called The Motive. So in each of the regions of the West Midlands and beyond, even in places like Leicester, non-COVID times, we would go and do events and teach young people how to put on their events, and it's a nice opportunity for young people to network. And we also have something called On Point, where we do like a podcast as well called Thrivecasters. There's a lot of opportunity. So if you want to hear about us or any of the guests that have mentioned projects, please, I've got the email scrolling above the bottom, so please do holler at us and we'll get you in touch with any of our guests today. But I can't believe like how quickly that's gone. There's so much that we really wanted to talk about. Naomi, we are going to... Yeah, go for it.
Can I just share my event?
Yeah. I was going to leave this. I was not going to forget you. How could we forget you, Naomi?
Pods are having a relaunch on the 12th of May, along with a fantastic organisation in London, Legacy Foundation Global. Look out for more details on that. We're going to have it streamed online, but there is some availability as well for people to attend, the actual live space, because it's going to be like a drop-in day where we've got young people showcasing some of their business things that they've set up during this lockdown, along with other organisations who are working with young people. So yeah, just look out for more on that, and just thank you all as well for just taking the time to be with Jenna and I this evening, because time is everything, isn't it? Like, but it
goes so quickly. I can't believe how an hour just flies by. Like, Naomi, we're going to have to definitely come back to this subject and do some more, because I think we scraped the surface, but there's so much like more to get out of all this. But you guys have been amazing. Like, it's been so lovely.
I really enjoyed meeting you, lovely ladies.
Women on the panel, like,
I know.
lovely. So we do this every month. Those of you that are watching still, like, big thank you for supporting us. We actually have a Facebook group as well, so if you're interested in these kind of subjects, please do get in touch. It's called the Hips Network. So if you do a search on Facebook, you should find us. It's a private group, obviously, because it's sensitive information, but we're trying to grow this network and do some really cool things. So just thanks for watching. If you want to be on the podcast with us, please reach out and let us know. And I'm just really excited for what we've got coming up soon. So big thank you, guys. Anybody got anything else to say?
Thank you very much for having me. It's been really, really interesting talking to some really interesting women, so thank you.
Same, thanks for having me. We also have a private Facebook group called Love Ladies, and it's just a private space for you just to basically listen, uplift and vent. So if you want to join that, by all means. And thanks again, ladies.
It's soon to be an app as well. Like, Sarah's come up with the idea. Her organisation has come up with an idea to do a free confidential app where women can share and really vent without getting attacked for it. So well done, Sarah, on that as well. Amazing.
Thank you, Nice.
Oh,
Amazing.
you guys are like honestly just so awesome. Keep up the amazing work, guys. You guys are legendary. Big love to you all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we're going to see you at the next episode of Hips. So take care, stay safe, and we'll see you guys then.
Bye.